if something happens to me, know that I have always loved you. These were the words that opened my last letter, perhaps the hardest I've ever written, and perhaps the most important. Here, on the battlefield, where the earth shakes with the sound of cannons and the sky is covered in smoke, I learned that tomorrow is a luxury. And when tomorrow is uncertain, the only thing left is to say what your heart has been screaming in silence for a long time. It's dawn. Most men sleep, some pray quietly, others write letters like this. Tomorrow, at dawn, we will march into one of the greatest offensives since this war began. No one says it out loud, but we all know. Many of us will not return. I don't know if this letter will reach you. Maybe the mail will be destroyed. Maybe I'll lose it in the field myself. But I need to write it anyway. Because, if I no longer have the chance to look into your eyes, I want at least these words to survive. I want that, even in the midst of the ashes, what I feel for you continues to exist. Even if it's just in this role. War has a cruel way of reminding us of what really matters. When everything around is death, love takes on an almost sacred glow. I remember our afternoons in the garden of your house, when the world was silent and the weather seemed kinder. You in your light dress, your bare feet on the grass, a light laugh escaping between your teeth. Me, trying to save every second like someone keeping gold in a safe. It was another time, another world, and yet, each image still lives in me clearly. Today, between trenches and explosions, it is still your face that I see when I close my eyes. It's still your voice that I hear when everything goes silent. And that's why I write. I want you to know that you were my home, even when I was sent so far away. It was your love that kept me going through the most difficult days. When the mud covered me up to my knees and the cold went through my bones, I thought of you. When fear hit, like a giant wave, I remembered your hug. And that was enough to continue. Every line of this letter is written with trembling hands, not from fear of death, but from the emptiness of not seeing you again. I don't know if I'll have time to say everything. The battle is close. The sky is already starting to lighten. But while I can, I write, because I couldn't bear to leave without you knowing the deepest truth in my heart. I loved you with everything I had in me. I don't say this out of despair. I say it because it's real, because you need to know that you changed my life. That gave meaning to my days before and during this war, that even with the world in ruins, there is still beauty, and it lives in you. If I don't come back, please don't cry for me. Cry for the world if you need to, but not for me, because I left loving it. I left remembering both of us. I left with you inside me, and that, my beloved, no one can take away. If this letter reaches you, keep it. With care, she's all that's left of me, and at the same time, everything I've always been. A man who loved, who was afraid, who fought ... but who never stopped believing in you. Tomorrow, when the sun rises, I will be with my companions. We will march with courage, because we have no other choice. But before I went, I needed to leave this last piece of me to you. This piece that the war didn't take, that time didn't erase, and that only belongs to you. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for existing. And if, by some miracle, I return, I promise to never leave again. With all my love, yours forever, Nikolai. Before the sirens, before the uniforms, the trenches and the silent tears at train stations, before all this, there were two of us. There was the city at peace, the lazy Sundays and the sweet smell of bread coming from the bakery on the corner. There was a clear sky, bicycles passing slowly through the cobblestone streets, and the almost naive feeling that the world would never change. The war was still just a whisper, a distant rumor on old radios, whispered conversations in grocery store lines, newspaper headlines folded on cafe tables. The threat still seemed like an old movie or someone else's nightmare, but we were too alive and distracted to notice. It was in this scenario that I met you, at the end of a calm summer, with the leaves starting to change color. You were sitting on the park bench, reading a book that I later discovered was your favorite since you were a teenager. I remember your hair being touched by the breeze, the way you wrinkled your nose when you underlined an important sentence. I walked past you like someone who didn't want anything, but, in fact, I already wanted everything. We started with exchanged glances, then little waves, until, one day, I sat next to him with a coffee and some excuse about the weather. That's how it all started, with simplicity, with the kind of purity that only exists when the heart has not yet been hurt by the world. Our days became long conversations, walks in the park, comfortable silences. You told me about your dreams, working with children, traveling to Italy, learning to play the piano. I listened like someone guarding a treasure. I was never good with words, but with you, I wanted to say everything. I wanted to be heard. I wanted to be seen. And you saw me, like no one had ever seen. We started making plans, small ones at first. A picnic, an open-air concert, a weekend out of town. Then came the bigger ones, renting a small house with a balcony, adopting a dog, maybe having children. You dreamed of a garden. I dreamed of you. But then, like a dark cloud appearing on the horizon of a sunny day, the rumors began to intensify. The conversations became more serious, the looks more worried. Young people began to disappear from street corners, some voluntarily, others summoned, and I was called to. I remember exactly the day I received the letter. I was in your house, with your hands still dirty with dirt, after helping plant your first flowers. You were laughing, sweating, your cheeks red from the sun. I almost didn't have the courage to open the envelope, but I did, and with him, everything changed. The war, which before was a whisper, now spoke loudly. It screamed inside me. We spent the following days like someone trying to stop time with our hands. We visited all the places we loved. We relive every moment. And, even with the pain growing every minute, we ever said the word end, because we knew, or maybe we just hoped, that this wouldn't be goodbye. The night before I left was silent. You slept with your head on my chest, and I spent hours looking at the ceiling, memorizing the curve of your neck, the rhythm of your breathing. I kept everything, like someone who knows they can lose. If we had known what was coming next, perhaps we would have said more. Maybe we would have done everything with even more intensity. But somehow, that innocence was also beautiful. It was pure. It was real. It was the perfect souvenir to carry with me on the darkest of days. Today, as I write this letter, with hands marked by war, I hold on to that time like someone holding an old photograph. You, sitting in the square, your laughter echoing among the branches. The world is still at peace. It was before the war, before the pain, before the distance, but it was the beginning of everything. It was the beginning for both of us, and no matter how much time passed, no matter how much the war tried to erase the joy of our first days, it couldn't, because what we experienced before the chaos was stronger than any bomb, more real than any wound, more eternal than any distance. If I don't come back, I want you to know, my love started there, on the bench in that square, in that peaceful summer, when the war was still just a whisper, and you, the only thing that made sense. The train left at 6 in the morning. On the station platform, the world seemed to spin more slowly. Soldiers lined up their backpacks. Mothers held back their tears. Small children hid behind their grandmothers' skirts. Steam escaped the engine like heavy sighs, and the sky, still shrouded in mist, seemed to carry with it the weight of goodbyes. And in the midst of that contained chaos, there you were, firm, beautiful, impossibly serene in the face of what we knew was ahead. His eyes were red, but not from weakness, from strength. You held back your tears like someone holding back a dam about to break, a woman with teary eyes and a brave heart. My hands were shaking, not because of the fear of what would come in the war, but because of the fear of leaving you. I never imagined leaving would be so difficult. It wasn't just leaving the city, friends, home. It was leaving you. And with you, the laughter, the smell of coffee in the kitchen, the hands intertwined on Sundays, the plans that we hadn't finished drawing yet. I tried to record every detail. The sound of your good morning, the way your fingers squeezed mine, the way your forehead touched mine whenever we wanted to say everything without needing to say anything. Memories that, I knew, would last an eternity. You looked at me and smiled, a fragile smile, but full of truth. And it was then that he told me, "Do you promise to come back?" It was the only time that day that his voice wavered. That question seemed simple, but it carried the weight of the world. I wanted to promise everything, promising that I would return unharmed, in one piece, at the same time, on the same train. I wanted to promise that the war would be brief, that the fear would pass, that we would soon be back in our garden, but I couldn't. Then I looked into his eyes, and with the courage I had left, I promised what was real. I promised to love you, no matter what. You didn't respond. He just hugged me. And in that hug, there were more words than in any book. We stayed like that for a time. That I will never be able to measure. There was no rush, but the clock didn't stop. He remained cruel, pushing us to the edge of a moment we didn't want to face. Someone shouted my name. It was time. I held his face in my hands and said softly, I will fight to return. For you, for us. You nodded, trying to smile, but the pain was brimming through your eyes. And then he took something out of his coat pocket, a small sealed envelope, with my name written in soft letters. He handed it to me, without saying anything, just asked, read it when you feel like you can't take it anymore. I kept the envelope in my coat pocket, like someone keeping a talisman. I still don't know if I'll have the courage to open it. Sometimes just knowing that it exists is comfort enough. I got on the train with heavy legs. I turned around one last time, and you were there, standing, alone. An image that remained in my memory like a black and white photograph. The steam rising, the scarf in your hand, slowly disappearing. The train moved. The city was left behind. But your face, your smell, your voice, everything came with me. I took you every step of the way, in every gear, in every silence between one bomb and another. You were in the letters I wrote, in the stories I told my companions, in the short dreams that escaped me during mud-soaked naps. The promise I made that morning was not made with empty words. It was done with all my heart. And every day since then, I repeat to myself, come back for her. There are days when hope disappears, days when blood covers the eyes and screams cover the sky. But even on those days, it's the memory of your embrace in that season that keeps me going. It's the echo of your question, promise you'll come back, that forces me to continue standing, even when my body wants to give up. And if one day I don't come back, if this war takes me ... I hope you know that I fought with all my strength, that my last memory was you, that my last prayer was for your smile. But until that day comes, if it comes, I'm still here, somewhere in the world, fighting, for love, for the promise to return. For us, war has its own sounds, the crunch of boots marching through the mud, the high-pitched screams of officers echoing across the countryside, the deafening crash of bombs falling in the distance. All of this forms the soundtrack for those who live at the front. But, over time, we get used to it. What you never get used to is the silence between one battle and another, the silence inside the tent, when the dawn is too cold and the tired body refuses to sleep. The silence that comes after someone who shared bread with you the night before is no longer there to share breakfast with. And, above all, the silence of longing. I thought war was noisy, and it is, to a certain extent, but no one told me that the most painful thing would be what you don't hear. The sound of your laughter that isn't here. The sound of your footsteps coming through the kitchen. Your voice calling me by name. All of this now lives only in my memory, and sometimes, even it fails me. I try to remember the way you said honey, and the sound escapes me like sand through my fingers. I try to mentally hear your voice reading letters out loud, like you did when news came from your neighbors, but sometimes all that comes is silence, and that scares me more than any explosion. I receive your letters when they manage to pass through the hands of postmen, pumps, and censors. Each envelope is a breath of life. I read and reread, as if the words could warm me. Sometimes, just touching the paper makes me feel closer to home, closer to you, but between one letter and another, time drags on. There are long days, weeks without news, and in this empty time, I invent conversations with you. I imagine you talking to me, asking how I am. I imagine how he would respond, trying to hide the dirt of war, the smell of death that doesn't come off his clothes. I don't want you to know these details. I want to protect you from this. I want at least what we have to be clean, pure, as it was before. There are days when I look at the sky and try to remember our sky, from our city, the smell of fresh bread, the color of your lipstick. But the sky here is always gray, and the smell is always smoke. Life at the front is a blur of identical days. Wake up before the sun, swallow a thin meal, check weapons, march, wait for orders, to fight, survive, if you can. Every day lived is a small victory, but every day lived away from you is also a wound. I've been trying to keep a small photograph of you alive that I carry in my coat pocket. His face is already a little faded by time and sweat, but I can still see his smile. Sometimes I talk to her. Crazy, I know, but in this place, crazy becomes a friend that you learn to tolerate. Some of my companions have pregnant wives waiting at home. Others left sick mothers, aging fathers. Everyone carries someone inside them. But when we talk about longing, no one argues who feels it more. It is a silent, democratic pain that visits each person in their own way. To me, it comes on cold nights. To others, in the most random moments, like the smell of cigarettes or the melody of a popular song that someone whistles. Homesickness is what keeps many alive, and also what kills inside. Life at the front is made up of little routines that we invent to pretend we're still human. A wooden comb that we pass through dirty hair, a folded letter that we read before going to sleep, a note in your pocket, a dried flower stuck between the pages of a notebook. Little things that, for some reason, remind us of who we are, who we were, who we still want to be, and I still want to be yours. Even here, even far away, even without knowing what will become of me tomorrow. Even if war steals everything from me, my body, my peace, my time, may it never steal from you the certainty that my heart remains where it has always been, with you. If you ever wonder if I was strong enough, know that I fought every day thinking about coming back to you. And if by chance I can't, may this letter, these words, written between one bombing and another, serve as proof that, even surrounded by silence, my love for you never stopped screaming. If you've made it this far, it's because this story spoke to you on some deep level. And if it has moved you so far, get ready. What comes next is even more intense. In the next chapter, you will discover how a simple "I love you," written in the midst of blood, dust and despair, became the last hope of a soldier who knew he might not have time left. So, if this video really touches you, don't forget to leave a like. This shows that these stories need to keep being told, and helps us reach more people who, like you, value what really matters. Take advantage and subscribe to the channel right now. Here, each story is made with soul, and you are part of it. And tell us in the comments, if you only had time to write one last letter, what would you say? We want to read, share, and get excited with you. Now, take a deep breath, because what comes next will shake you even more. In the next part, we will follow a man who decides that, if he is going to die, he will die loving. And the way he writes it will stay with you for a long time. Stay with me. The story continues now. I never thought that love could be written in blood. Not even if an "I love you" could carry so much weight when scribbled in a hurry. With fingers shaking, the body injured, and the ground vibrating under the screams of war. But that's exactly how it happened. It was late afternoon, and the battle had been brutal. I lost count of the sounds: gunshots, grenades, screams, and the sudden silence that comes when someone falls. When it was all over, for a moment, everything was quiet. An unreal silence, the kind of silence that only death knows how to create. I was hurt. A piece of shrapnel had gone through my leg, and the blood was pouring out like a confession that the body couldn't hide. The others ran, tended to the most seriously injured, set up defenses, prayed. And I looked for paper. I can't say why. Maybe because at that moment, more than the fear of dying, there was the fear of leaving without having said anything, without having written, without having it registered. I found a crumpled piece of paper between the pages of my campaign diary, already covered in dirt. I picked up the broken pencil and tried to write, but my fingers wouldn't obey, and the pain made me close my eyes often. Time seemed to be running against me. That was when, in an almost instinctive act, I wet the tip of the pencil with my own blood. I mixed letters with dust, lines with despair, and even though the words were shaky, even illegible, each letter carried something that I could never express out loud. "I love you," I wrote as if asking for help, like someone praying, as someone who knows that those 3 words are, perhaps, the only legacy he can leave behind. I love you. You weren't there to listen. It wasn't there to hold me, like it did when I had nightmares. But even so, I felt his presence. At that moment, amidst the blood and dirt, it was you who held my hand from the inside. It was your memory that kept me from erasing it completely. As I was writing, I remembered little things. The day you sang out of tune just to make me laugh. The day we danced in the kitchen, with the radio blaring at low volume. The day I remained silent out of fear, and you understood everything anyway. That's why I wrote "I love you" more than once, 2, 3, 4. As if by repeating these words I made them more real. As if they had the power to keep me alive. Or, at least, to ensure that, if I didn't survive, something of me would remain, because there are things that war can destroy, houses, cities, dreams, but love, true love endures. He holds on to the smallest things, to the memory of a touch, to the smell kept in memory, to the sound of a laugh in the middle of the night. He writes himself even when everything around is death. I finished the letter with difficulty. The pain was intense, but no greater than the urgency to finish, no greater than the fear that you would never know. I kept the folded paper inside my coat, close to my heart, and closed my eyes. I don't know how long. I stayed there, hours maybe, or just minutes. When I woke up, someone had dragged me to a makeshift medical tent. I was treated hastily, without anesthesia, with my teeth clenched and my gaze fixed on the ceiling. The paper was still in my pocket, intact. The next few days were a blur of pain and recovery. But that "I love you," written in blood and dust, stayed with me as a constant reminder. You were my reason, the reason to resist, to follow, to even when injured, continue fighting, and writing this new letter with firmer hands and a still fragile heart, I want you to know this, that those words were not a desperate act, but a gesture of love. A love that, even injured, even dirty, even on the verge of the end, remained pure. You may be thousands of kilometers away from me, but every time I repeat "I love you," even in thought, I feel like a piece of my heart comes home, come back to you. If one day this letter reaches your hands, perhaps you will read it in silence. Maybe cry, maybe smile, maybe just close your eyes and hear my voice saying everything I've never said in person. But if none of this is possible, if this letter is lost like so many others in this world at war, may the wind, at least, carry these words to you. I love you, yesterday, today, always, even with blood, even with dust, even if I don't come back. War, more than anything else, is a constant parade of absences. With each new day, a familiar face leaves. With each new dawn, a name is longer called during the investigation. With each battle, we are reminded that being alive here is a coincidence, a blessing, or perhaps just a whim of fate. Today, I write with a heavier heart, because I lost another friend, Sasha, the youngest in our platoon. He was only 19. He barely had a beard on his face, but he smiled like an optimistic old man. I dreamed of being a musician when I returned. He said that the first thing he would do when he set foot in the house was hug his mother and play the piano, even if his fingers were stiff from the war. Yesterday, a grenade took him from us, fast, no warning, no chance to say goodbye, and I, who was just 2 meters behind, couldn't do anything. I just saw the dust rise. The silence that followed was the most deafening I have ever heard. War teaches us to be strong, but what it doesn't teach, what we could never learn, is how to keep walking when so many get in the way, how to accept that the place they occupied next to you is now just air and memory. How to explain to your heart that there will be no more silly jokes before bed, no more stories repeated around the campfire. Sasha was just one of many. There was also Piotr, who taught me how to strap the rifle more securely. He died in the first winter, of fever and fatigue. Nobody mentioned this in the reports. Nobody wrote their name on medals. But I remember, he liked fries and dreamed of opening a bar. There was Yuri, who sang old songs during the marches, always out of tune, always smiling. He said that laughter was resistance. He was shot by a sniper while fetching water. He didn't even have time to react. And there was Mikhail, my soul brother. We slept side by side for months. He knew my love for you. He was the one who always said, "Come back to her, Nikolai, with or without legs, but come back." He was the one who held me when I received the news of my first serious injury. He was the one who shared his last cigarette with me on the eve of the great battle. Mikhail died 2 weeks ago, and since then, his silence has accompanied me like a shadow. Sometimes I still talk to him without realizing it. I still tell jokes as if he would laugh. I still look to the side hoping it's there, but he's not. And that, hurts in a way that I can't explain. Baby, I wanted to tell you all this because you need to know. You need to understand what I carry. You need to know that I am trying every day to keep my sanity, my heart, and my hope in the midst of so much loss. But the truth is, inside, we are all cracked. Every name you go by leaves an invisible scar, and each scar is a cruel reminder that war never leaves anyone whole. Even if I return to you with all my limbs, with my face intact, inside there will be voids that can never be filled. The faces of these men will accompany me until the end of my days. And yet, there is still a strange feeling inside me, a silent gratitude, because in the midst of all this death, it was with these men that I experienced moments of humanity. They helped me laugh when everything around was sadness. They taught me not to lose faith, believing that, even in the midst of pain, there was still something to fight for, and that something was you. Sasha asked me about you every day. I wanted to know what your smile was like, what your voice was like. I spoke of you as if I were describing a rare painting, a perfect melody. He said he wanted to live a love like that, and I said he still had time. Lies that we tell to not go crazy. Maybe one day, if I go back, I'll visit their families, maybe take letters, maybe tell stories, maybe cry. But what I want most is to ensure that their names are not forgotten. May they live in me, in you, in whoever hears this story. Let them know that their existence made a difference, and let you know, every step I take on this battlefield, every day I survive, every word I write is for them, and for you. Because love and memory are the only weapons I still have to fight against oblivion. If I go back, I will come back carrying the faces of all these men. I'll come back a little older, a little quieter, but still yours. And if you don't come back, may you get to know them through these words. Let it be known that they lived, that they loved, who fought, and they stayed along the way. But I follow, for all of them, for us. There are days when fear doesn't come from gunshots. It is not the sound of artillery, nor the sharp whistle of a bomb descending, freefall, nor even the dry crack of a shot in the distance. These sounds, no matter how bad they are, we learn to identify. You even learn to anticipate. But there is a silent, insidious fear that visits me every night, and that fear has its name. I'm afraid of forgetting your face. It sounds crazy, I know. You must be thinking, how could he forget? Just him, who told me he knew the exact curvature of my smile, who described my eyes as if they were constellations. So it is. I also thought it would never happen. But war does to memory what time does to stones. It wears files, erases. The first time I felt this was when I woke up from a nap in a trench. I had dreamed of you. It was a calm, beautiful, almost unreal dream. You were in a wheat field, your dress blowing in the wind, laughing like the first time you saw me clumsily trying to ride a bike. In the dream, his face was clear, as if he had just come out of a photograph. But when I woke up, everything fell apart. I tried to recompose the image, but something was gone. The exact line of your nose, the way his brow furrowed when he didn't understand one of my jokes, the way your eyes filled with tears when you talked about your father, it disappeared. And that terrified me more than any explosion. Since then, I have carried this fear like someone carrying a silent illness, because longing has a weight, yes, but forgetting, forgetting has claws. He steals slowly, first the sound of your voice, then the smell of your skin, the touch of your hand, and suddenly, what was clear becomes a blur. What was love turns into an effort to remember. I spent days trying to remember details about you. I took the paper where I had drawn you with my hurried handwriting. He read his letters like someone memorizing verses from a sacred poem. But even so, at certain moments, his image escaped my memory, like cigarette smoke blown in the wind. I asked one of the soldiers here, a guy who knows how to draw, to help me sketch his face. I described every detail I could remember. What appeared on the paper was not you. It was almost, but something was missing. The soul was missing. And maybe no one can draw that. Then I started writing more. Not just letters like this, but descriptions, memories. I recorded the day you wore that blue dress for the first time. The time we danced in the living room, with the music on the radio low, and our steps out of step. I wrote about her habit of tucking her hair behind her ears when she was nervous. About the way you shook my hand when you were happy. Everything I still had left. Because I realized that if I couldn't keep his image exactly, I could at least keep the emotion, the living memory of what I felt with you. Because, in the end, perhaps that is the most important thing. Maybe love isn't in the features we remember, but in the way they made us feel. And you made me feel whole. Even now, so far away, so hurt by time and distance, I still find strength when I think of you. I still cling to what we experienced like a castaway who finds a plank in the high seas. You are that board. And even though I can't remember the exact color of your favorite blouse, I remember the feeling of peace I felt when I hugged you. No one can take that away from me. I'm afraid, yes, but fear doesn't paralyze me. On the contrary, it pushes me forward. It forces me to resist, makes me want to survive. Because if I go back, I want to see your face again. Not on paper, not in a dream, in flesh, in laughter, in tears. I want to be able to say, with my eyes in yours, that love overcame oblivion. And if I don't come back, then let these words serve as a bridge. May they cross time and space and reach you. May, when you read them, you see yourself through my eyes. May you discover, or remember, how much you were, and still are loved. May you know that, even if my body cannot resist the war, my memory will carry you to the end. No, I won't forget your face, because even if he disappears in image, he will remain tattooed in the essence of my being. And maybe that's what they call true love. It was a grey morning, a type of grey that is not seen in the sky of our city, not even in the cloudiest winters. It was a grey that seemed to come from within, from the soul of war, from the weight of everything it had already taken from us. We woke up with orders to advance. The front was taken. The enemy had gained ground. I'd before, and our troops needed to regain position before we were surrounded. No one said it out loud, but we knew. That mission was suicidal. We march in silence. The cold entered through the seams of the uniform. The ground was a sea of mud, charred tree remains, and buried memories. I didn't think about anything. I couldn't. The mind goes into a strange state, at these moments a mix of focus and numbness. The only thing that kept me awake was the sound of your voice, which I made up in my head to distract myself from the death around me. We advance up a slope. Everything seemed to quiet, and it was there, in that sudden silence, that the explosion came. I don't remember the sound, just the light, an absurd clarity which invaded everything. Then, an emptiness, a second with nothing, no pain, no image, no world, as if my body had shut down. And then, the impact. I woke up on the floor, dazed, with my ears ringing. I could taste blood in my mouth. The smoke blinded me. Someone screamed for help, others shot, and I just wondered if I had survived. I tried to move. The left arm was unresponsive. The leg throbbed. The pain came in waves, but it wasn't the pain that made me despair. What hurt me most was the doubt. Will I die here, without seeing her again? Without saying everything that still lives inside me? My right hand reached into my coat pocket. There was his letter. The one you wrote the day before I left, which I never had the courage to open, for fear of what you might have said, for fear of crying. But there, lying in the mud, on the edge between life and death, I opened it. The letters were blurry. Some words had disappeared over time. But still, I managed to understand. You said you would wait for me, that he forgave me for leaving, that he loved me, that you would wait for me even if the world ended, and that, if one day I felt like I couldn't take it anymore, it was to remember that, somewhere, there was someone believing in me. The letter got wet with my tears, and maybe they were the ones who brought me back to reality, that forced me to drag myself, trying not to give up. It took me forever to reach the nearest shelter. One of the guys saw me and shouted for help. I was carried to the medical tent with my body in tatters. I remember the doctor's face, pale, worried, and his words, "This one was close." It was days before I could walk again, days when I thought I might not get out of there, days when I dreamed of you every night. In some dreams, you came to get me. Other times, he just looked at me and smiled. But in all, you were there. And that, more than any medicine, is what cured me. I survived. And now, writing this letter, I feel I need to tell you this, because you need to know that when everything in me said stop, your love said keep going. When the body wanted to give in, the memory of your hug was what held me back. I almost died, my love, but your love saved me. Not with doctors, not with morphine, with words, with promises, with everything we built before all this started. Because even though I was hurt, even though I was weak, even though the world was falling around me, there was still a part of me that didn't want to leave without seeing you one more time. And if I came back from this abyss, it's because I still have something to accomplish. I still have one last dance with you, an afternoon on the balcony, a leisurely kiss, a candlelit dinner that I promised 1,000 times and never kept. If I survived the day I almost died, it's because life, somehow, still has a reunion in store for us. And that's why I write, so that if fate changes its mind, and my luck runs out tomorrow. You will know this. In the darkest hour of my life, it was the love for you that turned on the only light. If I don't come back, if this letter is the last thing of mine that touches your hands, if war takes me before I can see you again, so let these words be my present body. May this letter be my hug. That, when you read it, you feel my voice whispering everything that has been trapped in your chest for too long. I don't know how much time I have left. None of us here know. War does not set a time. She doesn't warn. One moment we're laughing, the next we're running to survive. And that's why I write now, because I can no longer risk leaving without you knowing what was always in me, even when it wasn't said. If I don't come back, I don't want you to be angry at life, not even from me. I don't want you to drown in questions or torture yourself with what if. There was nothing you could do, nothing I could change. Wars, when they come, don't ask for permission. They just drag everything in their path, like a strong wind tearing flowers from the field. But even with that, I don't regret it. I don't regret loving you. I don't regret every goodbye, every letter, every sleepless night thinking about us. Because if there's one thing that kept me whole in the middle of this hell, it was the love you gave me. If I don't come back, I want you to live. And I say that with everything in me, alive, with all the strength you have, with all possible colors. Laugh, love, again, if necessary. Travel, plant flowers, do everything we dream of, even without me, because your life is worth it. She is worth more than any memory, more than any grief. I didn't love you to arrest you. I loved you to set you free. And if I have to leave, may my absence not be a weight, but a gentle breeze that accompanies you, that you will miss it. Yes, that is inevitable. But may it come along with gratitude for everything we were, for everything we had. If I don't come back, please read this letter more than once. Read slowly, like someone enjoying a last sip of wine, like someone listening to their favorite song for the last time. Because here, in these lines, is everything I am, everything I leave, everything I couldn't say. Looking into your eyes, and there's one thing I need to ask you, one last request, if I may. Go to the field where we used to walk at dusk, the one where you picked daisies and I said each one was a promise from me. Go there, take this letter, sit in the same place where you laid your head in my lap and asked me to never leave. Take as much time as you need, cry if you have to, talk to me, even if I can't answer, and then get up and go live. Because if I don't come back, that's where I want to rest, in you, in your memory, in your smile, in your continuation. Because we only truly die when we are forgotten. And I know that as long as you live, my name will live on. If I don't come back, know that I fought for love, not for honor, not for medals, for you. Because when everything seemed lost, your image gave me strength. Your love rebuilt me. And if by chance there is another life, if there is something after all this, I will be waiting for you in another season, perhaps in another time, but with the same certainty as always, that you are, were, and always will be the great love of my life. If I don't come back, know that I will not leave in fear. I will leave with love, with the certainty that, somewhere, someone like you existed and loved me. This is more than any man could ask for. I never thought I could miss a place without an address so much. But, after all, my house was never a brick building, nor a window with white curtains, nor a stove burning with the smell of coffee. My home has always been you. It was in your embrace that I found shelter. In your laughter, I rest. In your eyes, my north. Here, amidst the mud and smoke, I understood what the old books didn't teach me. That home is not where you live, but where your heart rests. And mine rests in you. Even now, even far away, even hurting inside. When everything around us seems to fall apart. When gunshots ring so close that our ears ring. For hours, when we lose yet another friend. When the silence of the night feels too much like the absence of meaning. I close my eyes, and I return home. I return to the sound of your good morning, still hoarse with sleep. I return to the clumsy dance in the kitchen while the rice burns on the stove. I go back to the way you looked at me when you thought I wasn't looking. That look that said stay, even when I said I needed to go. Remember our balcony. We said it was the best place in the world, and it was there, with you by my side. Time seemed to bend before the peace we created together. There was no rush, no guilt, no demands. just the two of us, and the comfortable silence of someone who knows they are exactly where they are supposed to be. Today, I think of that porch as a lighthouse. Even surrounded by the darkness of war, I still see its light. And it is this memory that guides me, that sustains me, that prevents me from falling apart inside. The boys here talk about their homes all the time. Some dream of the smell of their mother's cooking. Others proudly describe the lands they left behind. And I listen, I smile, but I stay quiet, because my home is you. And how to explain this in a few words? How can I say that what sustains me is not a geographical memory, but a feeling? How can I put it in simple sentences that you are everything that makes me want to come back? There was a night, a few days ago, when I thought I wouldn't make it. The pot was great, the fever is high, and for the first time I found myself thinking about giving up. But then I remembered your voice, come back to me, and how not to come back. How can I not fight with every fiber of my body if, at the end of it all, there is you? How can I not face my own death, if it's the only thing between me and the way back home? I know that maybe life won't give us back lost time. If I go back, it's possible we won't be the same. Me, with a marked body, a more tired look. You, with accumulated longings and wounds that only time will know how to treat. But still, I want to go back. I want to rebuild with you everything that the war tried to destroy. Because wherever you are, that's where I belong. You are my home. Not because it welcomed me, but because it transformed me. You taught me what love is without fear, love without rush, love without demands. You showed me that I can be fragile and strong at the same time, that I can fall and still be worthy of being loved. And so, even if the world ends, even if I never manage to cross that fine line between war and peace, know this: you were, are, and will always be the safest place in the world for me. If I don't come back, remember this truth. And if I come back, I want the first thing you tell me to be, welcome back home. Because nothing, absolutely nothing, will be greater than the joy of meeting you again. If this letter reached you, it is because time has passed, maybe more than we would like. Maybe I came too late, but still, I hope it came in one piece. With all the words I wrote with my soul, and with the trembling hands of a man who didn't know if he would see tomorrow. Therefore, I want to make a request to you. Keep this letter close to your heart. Not out of attachment, not out of sadness, not like a lament stuck on paper, but as a testimony, like memory, like what remains when time takes everything, everything but love. Keep this letter, as if it were the last photograph of a time that never returns, but that lives forever within us. Because it was in each line that I put the most precious thing, you. Maybe one day you will read these words again when you are alone, in silence, listening to the wind blowing through the window. Maybe put the letter in an old box, along with other souvenirs of ours. Or maybe take it with you on a trip, or just leave it between the pages of your favorite book, the one you were reading when we first met. Wherever you keep it close. Let it be inside. Let it be with tenderness, not with pain. Because this letter was not written to make you suffer. It is, above all, a love letter. Of that love that survives distance, time, and even death. You might even find other cards, other promises, other hugs, and, over time, other people. And it's okay, in truth, but I want you to know that this letter carries something unique, the portrait of a love that was yours, only yours, and that, even here on the other side of the world, or on the other side of life, remains. Keep this letter because it contains the sound of my voice, saying everything I could never say looking into your eyes. I forgive you for all the times I was harsh. My regret for the hours I wasted away from you, even when we were still close, and above all, my gratitude for having found you in this vast, cruel world, and, at the same time, so full of beauty. You don't need to show this letter to anyone. You don't want to. It does not need to be read aloud or turned into a speech. She just needs to live, in you, like a lit spark that insists on shining even when the wind blows too hard. There are soldiers who leave medals, others, stories of bravery. I leave words, because they were the ones who accompanied me on cold days, in moments when blood seemed hotter than hope. They were the ones who linked me to you when there were no more ropes or bridges. And if for some reason this letter has resisted time, censorship, storms, then let it be more than a piece of paper. May it be a reminder that love is more resilient than anything, that, even between bombs and absences, it is still possible to feel deeply, truly. If one day you have children, maybe you will tell them this story, or not. Maybe keep it just for yourself. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that when your fingers touch this paper, you remember that someone, in the midst of darkness, thought of you as light. That someone fought for you. That someone, even scared, even hurt, even on the edge, never stopped loving you. This letter is my last attempt to be with you. Not physically, but in a more beautiful way, longer lasting, because the body passes, but words can span centuries, if they are true. And these are, if I could ask for just one thing, it would be this, that you cherish these words with the same affection with which you have always welcomed me. May they become your shelter on gray days. May they make you smile when the world weighs heavily. May they remind you that you are, and always have been, loved with everything anyone could offer. Keep this letter close to your heart, and if one day the wind blows too hard, open it again, and let me hug you once again. Between the words, there comes a time when the pen weighs like lead in your hand, not because the body is tired, although it is, but because the soul resists what is to come. Writing the end of this letter is like letting go of the hands of someone about to disappear into the crowd. It's knowing that there may not be another chance. It's like closing the door with the feeling that you'll never hear the sound of laughter on the other side again. It's goodbye. And, my love, I never knew how to say goodbye to you. I've always been bad at it. Even when we spent days apart, even though we knew we would see each other again soon, there was always a lump in my throat, a silly, childish fear that something would take us away from each other. And now, here, on this sheet stained by memories, sweat, and dust, I need to find a way to say goodbye to you. But how do I say goodbye to someone who is part of me? There are words that don't fit on paper. There are feelings that go beyond the margins, and there are pains that only silence understands. Still, I'll try, because you deserve it. It deserves every word, every period full of love. As I write, the sky outside is starting to darken. An icy wind enters. Through the cracks in the tent, the other soldiers are quiet. Some sleep with their face turned to the canvas wall. Others pretend to sleep so as not to think about what awaits us at dawn. And I, among these men marked by time, carry something that sets me apart. A reason to fight until my last breath. A name that echoes inside me like a prayer. A memory that saves me every day from despair. You, my love, my home, my choice, my eternal. If this letter is the last thing I will write with my hands, then may it carry everything that still pulses inside. May it go beyond ink, beyond paper. Let it be more than a letter. Let it be the translation of what we were, what we dreamed of, what we felt. I tried to find a way to end lightly, not to leave you with that weight on your shoulders. But I realized that lightness is not in the absence of pain. It is, in fact, and my truth is simple. I loved you until the end. I loved you the days I had you near. I loved you on days when longing was greater than faith. I loved you while bombs fell, while the sky closed, while the world broke. And now, in this moment, even though my body shakes and my inner voice shatters, I still love you. So, as if it were the last time we spoke, I leave my signature here, but not like I was finishing just any letter, not with affectionately or sincerely. I leave it like someone signing the heart, with each beat mixed with the name. I leave it like someone who seals a destiny, like someone who immortalizes a love, with all the love a man can carry in his chest, with the longing that has already become part of my body, and with the hope, still alive, of meeting you again. Yours, beyond the war. Yours, even in your absence. Yours, until your last breath. Nikolai. P.S. If you read this with shaking hands, teary eyes and a heavy heart, know that I'm there, in some corner of the room, watching you, smiling, whispering softly, everything will be fine. The letter arrived on an ordinary morning. There was no rain, nor too much sun. Just that silence that usually surrounds the days when they don't know they're about to change everything. She no longer expected it. The years had passed like leaves in the wind, dragging memories and leaving behind only the sound of absence. His letters had stopped months ago. The army had only sent a brief, formal, dry statement, missing in action, no body, no date, no conclusions. But that morning, the push called her by name, and when he handed over the yellowed envelope, he looked into her eyes with the gravity of someone who knew. This wasn't just any correspondence. error a paper. Her hand shook. The eyes took a while to believe. The handwritten name, the old seal, the creases of time on the paper. Everything seemed more fragile than the heart that beat fast in his chest. She climbed the stairs to her house slowly, as if each step was part of a ritual. He sat on the chair on the balcony, the same one where the two used to dream about the future, and for a moment he didn't know what to do. Reading would be reliving. Reading would confirm. Reading would be touching the end. But not reading would be denying what was left of him in the world. With delicate fingers, he unfolded the paper. The handwriting was the same, strong, but tired. And then, little by little, he began to speak again. Every word was a beat of his heart. Each paragraph, a memory. He talked about the front, about friends, about pain, about longing, and about love. Ah, the love. He was in everything. Between the lines, in the breaks, in the way he spoke of her as someone clinging to the only certainty in a collapsing world. She read slowly, as if swallowing each word for fear it would disappear. He cried, not a desperate cry, but a clean cry, deep, like someone who washes the soul with the water of longing. The world stopped. For long minutes, there was only his voice echoing inside. Her, and when he got to the signature, when he read that yours, until the last breath, he felt that something was breaking, and at the same time it was falling into place, as if I could finally breathe. She kept the letter in a fabric envelope. He placed it inside a small wooden box, along with his photograph, a dried flower, and the ring that he had promised to make official when he returned. There was no more waiting, but there was peace. In the days that followed, she walked again to the field where they used to go in the evenings. He carried a book, a notebook, and sat under their favorite tree. There, with the wind playing in her hair and the smell of the earth around her, she read the letter again, and once again. Some people said she was stuck in the past, others that she was too strong. But the truth is that she had just made a silent agreement with time, not to forget, but to continue. The letter became a reliquary, not just an interrupted love, but a complete love, because, even though the war had separated them in the flesh, his spirit had found its way back, and love, that, had survived, on paper, in memory, in faith. Years later, when her hair was already white, and her hands were wrinkled like letter paper, she handed that envelope to her granddaughter, and he just said, "Keep that. Here is the story of a man who loved me more than the world was able to allow, and a love that not even war could erase." The granddaughter, still young, held the letter as if receiving a secret, and I knew, at that moment, that some stories don't need happy endings to be eternal. They just need to be true. This is the story of a love that was born before the war, survived the silence of the trenches, crossed the uncertainty of the front, and found its eternity in a letter. Nikolai never returned, but his last message reached those who mattered most, the woman he loved, until the end. Between blood, dust, and words, he left proof that true love resists time, distance, and even death, because there are feelings that do not need presence to exist, and there are stories that, even without a happy ending, are complete. That was one of them. If this story touched you in any way, if for a moment you found yourself in the place of someone you love from a distance, someone waiting for a letter, or someone still carrying someone close to your chest, then share that moment with us. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel. This is not just a gesture, it is the fuel that allows us to continue sharing stories that transform, that heal, and that make people feel. Here, each story is written to touch the heart, and if this touched yours, share. Someone may need to hear these exact words today. And remember, sometimes all someone needs is to know that they are still loved, even if in silence, even if from afar.